Child is this who laid to rest on Mary's lap is sleeping, whom angels greet with anthems sweet, while shepherds watch are keeping. What child is this who lay to rest on Mary's lap is sleeping, whom angels greet with anthems sweet, while shepherds watch are keeping. Christ, our King, whom shepherds guard and angels sing. Haste, haste to bring him, Lord, the babe, the Son of Mary. So bring him incense, gold, and myrrh, compassionate King, to own him, the King of kings. Salvation brings, that loving hearts enthrone him. Ba 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 do
right, how are you? Is the meal okay? Liberty Hill, the meal okay? I heard you. All right, that's awesome. Those of you joining us online, how's your food? Perfect. Chat it in. What are you eating? I'd like to know. I'll read it later, right? So, hey, thank you so much for spending a few minutes with us after church, right? So this is the after party, and I am glad that you're here in the room. I'm really, really glad for those of you in Liberty Hill and those of you who chose online to be with us too. These are important days for our church, and they are not small things that we think, oh, we should do that someday. These are things that we absolutely should do. And I'm excited about where we're going. I gotta tell you, I'm scared of where we're going. But what I know about leadership is that if I'm not scared, I'm not leading. Because we're just stagnant, staying in the same place. So I've been scared for 20 years in most cases. And the few times I wasn't scared, we weren't growing as a church, like spiritually and moving forward. And so I don't want that to be the case. And so, yes, it's a little gut-wrenching to try something that, like, man, God, I hope you're in this. This is what I think is right, and this is what it looks like the culture's happening. It looks like this is what we should do. And then to just go, all right, God, we're going to take a step, and man, you stop us in our tracks if we get off base here. But I want you to know, no matter what we try, no matter what we attempt, no matter what we think is the right path, I'm telling you, the heart behind it for our church is to go and make disciples and baptize them and teach them what we've learned from Jesus and help them to grow and reproduce themselves as another follower of Jesus. Our goal has to be to carry the mission on that Jesus gave us. And what I love about Jesus is he didn't tell us how you have to do that. He left that up to us. And so I love that. So today, I want today to be some interactive approaches. And for those of you online and in Liberty Hill, whether you know this or not, whether any of you in the room know this or not, this is a guinea pig moment for us. Because the future is engagement. It's engagement. Liberty Hill, you guys have been trial running something for almost 5 years, and we've learned so much. And the future is in what you're doing. The future, those of you in line, the future is there, and we've got to go there. So I'm excited about how we are going to do this and how we're going to do it together. But before we talk about all the how, I want to remind us of the why. We got to remember why we would even do this. Yes, we have what's called the Great Commission, our mission to go and make disciples of all nations. But the truth is, if we can just be real painfully honest, the church has just lost its value to the world. I hate that. I got to tell you, and hate's a strong word, but I really, really hate that for us and maybe even about us, that we've lost our value to those that Jesus told us to go reach. So that's not okay with me. And I want to do everything possible to help lead us in a direction that brings value back to what Jesus said is incredibly valuable, that I would give my life for that. So I'm just telling you that for our church, and I can't say this for every other church, but for our church, I'm owning that. That's my fault, and I'm owning that. And so I'm not okay owning it, not doing something different about it. So we brought up this word in our 21st Century Church series that has kind of rocked my world a little bit. I hope it's rocking your world a little bit. And I hope it continues to rock our church over and over. And it's this word proximity. The word proximity. So when I think about proximity, it's nearness in space, time, and relationship. We've got to be close to people like Jesus was close to people. Do you remember the church people, the religious people, the Pharisees, who were so upset at Jesus for going to Matthew's party with all his tax collector friends? This is what Jesus was doing, was proximity. And he modeled it for us, and we can't get away from proximity. We've got to be in the lives of the people that Jesus sent us to share his love and good news about their life and for their life, this message that Jesus gave his life for their sins, and that their life can be forever, forever, forever changed because of what Jesus did. And we've got to be in proximity with people. You know what I've discovered over 20 years of being a pastor? Is that I can preach for 20 years, and the majority of my community still doesn't have a relationship with Jesus. I don't know what to do with that, except something different than what we're doing right now. Because I don't want to spend the next 20, I don't want our church to spend the next 20 and look up 20 years from now and says, man, it's almost like we haven't even made a dent. And so I know you're busy, you're raising kids, you got a job, trying to keep your marriage going in the right, look, you're paying bills. I know all that. You've got all that in your life. So I know you don't always actually have time to think about that. I mean, I work one day a week. I got all kinds of time to think about this stuff, right? I'm so glad you laughed at that. I hope y'all did out there too. I hope you laughed at that. So, proximity is the answer, and that's the change. I'll take you back into our 21st Century Church series. If you'll remember, we kind of came to this pivotal point where we said that when Jesus died, that in the temple was the separation of the holiness of God in the Holy of Holy Places. And only one guy, the high priest, could only go in there, and he could only go in one time a year. And when he went in, they tied a rope around his leg and held it out there. So if the bells on his robe ever quit ringing, they knew that he was not good with God, and God had killed him, and they had to drag him out because they couldn't go in there to get him. That's how holy the place was, because that's where God was. And when Jesus died, that curtain ripped from the top to the bottom, and now the commoners could see in there. And that example is what we have to push after. That the curtain has been pulled back. And when the church comes through these doors into our community, we go into our community. We, in turn, are pulling the curtain back on the church and saying no longer can it be a holy huddle about us, and this is our little building, and you can't know what goes on in there. We are coming out to you like Jesus came out into the people. Because here's what I know. Listen, Jesus has not lost his power. Jesus has not lost his value. Jesus has not lost his influence. We have. And when Jesus, get this, when we get people in proximity with Jesus, they are forever changed. This is why we've been talking about love so much, because that's our part in that. People are going to see Jesus in you, in the way you treat them, and the way I treat them. And when we get that into their life, the power is not in me. The power is not in a message. The power is not in us gathering. The power is not in you knowing more scripture. The power is not in any of that. The power is in Jesus. And when we get people close to Jesus, their life changes forever. That's what I mean by proximity. And how dare we? How dare we when we know? And if we didn't know, we do now. How dare we close off the curtain again to the power and the goodness and the greatness and the forgiving, amazing act of Jesus giving his life for us. So the Spirit of God came out of the Holy of Holies. And where is that Spirit today? It's in you. I mean, it's in you. There was a temple, and the Spirit of God dwelt in that temple. Back in the old days, it was called the Ark of the Covenant. You've seen Raiders of the Lost Ark, right? You know, that Ark, right? Right? So this is what they're always looking for, that Ark. And the power of God rested on that Ark. In fact, it rested so much on that Ark, they had to create poles to carry that Ark. And one day they were trying to move the ark and it tilted a little bit, and this guy with the best of intentions reached up to touch it, but you weren't supposed to touch it. That's what the poles were for. And God's holy power was so strong on that ark, when the guy tried to catch it from falling, he fell over dead. I mean, that's how powerful the Spirit of God is. And then God rested in this holy of holy place, and it used to be a portable temple that moved around this tent, and there was this holy of holy places, and then they built the temple, and that's where it was. And when the curtain was ripped, that Holy Spirit of God that had dwelt in that place came out. And if you know a little bit about that word Pentecost, where they were in the upper room praying, and God had said, my comforter will come to you, my Spirit's going to rest on you, and they were in the upper room praying for that to happen, and all of a sudden, like a rushing wind, that Spirit that had rested in that ark, in that portable, in that portable temple, and then ultimately in that holy of holy place, came rushing into this place, and they were filled with God's Spirit for the first time. And from that point on, as somebody makes the conscious decision to make Jesus their king and accept the forgiveness of their sins that he offered on the cross, that Spirit indwells each of us one by one by one as we come to be Jesus followers. Meaning, you are now a portable temple. You're a mobile temple of God's Spirit. When you invite Jesus into your life and receive his forgiveness for your sins and trust him for the salvation of your life, you become a portable temple, a mobile temple, and his Spirit is in you. And it is that Spirit that when you get in proximity of that, Jesus changes your life. That's why, think about this. This is why Jesus told them, go. Get out everywhere. Be in proximity with people because my Spirit is now in you. Did you remember back in the temple model? They all had to come to the temple. Now, the temple goes out to them. See, this is where we are. Today that's in you. God's Spirit is in you. And when you realize you are the key, get this, when you realize you are the key to releasing God's Spirit in this world, when that really gets to your mind and heart, oh, as a Jesus follower, I'm kind of the key to this happening, then all of a sudden you start seeing your place and purpose in the plan. What plan? Go and make disciples of all nations. So what's that look like? There's this great story in Matthew 16 about Jesus taking his 12 to Caesarea Philippi. And Caesarea Philippi was not where good Jewish boys and girls should hang out, right? It was the bad place. Like if you wanted to party, you would go to Caesarea Philippi, okay? I mean, they had some stuff going on, and Jesus takes them there, and I like to think about this stuff, but my guess is those guys were doing it like this. Oh, we can't look at this. What are we doing here, Jesus? These were young Jewish guys, right? Like, Jesus, why would you let us look at this stuff? I mean, like, it was like all kinds of sexual temple worship and stuff going on, and there was this place where there's this cave, and like they thought the evil spirits came and went into the earth through this particular cave, and they would go down, and they had kind of built an outdoor temple, and they did all kinds of stuff down there to worship there, and that's where they are. And so Jesus takes his 12 over there, and he says to them while he's there, who do you guys say that I am? He said, who do people say that I am? And Peter's like, oh, I know the answer. And he says, some people think you're Moses. Some people think you've like a prophet that's come back. And Jesus looks them in the eye and says, well, who do you say that I am? And Peter said, I know the answer, that you are the Messiah, the Son of the living God. And Jesus said, your heavenly Father taught you that. You didn't just know that. Your heavenly Father taught you that. And then he says, and upon this rock, and that could be played, because Peter means rock, that could be played all kinds of ways. But I love to think about the fact that Jesus was saying like, hey, upon this rock, and of course there was this rock, this giant rock with this cave, and he's like, upon this rock with all this evil going on, with all this sin happening, I'm gonna build my church for people who are not perfect. And then there's the other way to play that. Okay, Peter, your name means rock, and so I'm gonna build it on people like you. Peter, you're going to reach people like this. There's all kinds of symbolism we could walk into with that idea. And then Jesus said something so amazing that I think is just pivotal for us with what we're talking about right now. Jesus told them, I'm giving you the keys to the kingdom. I don't know about you, if you've had the experience of giving your kids the keys the first time. Oh my goodness, that's hard. Unless you want some ice cream at about 10 o'clock at night, and then it gets a little easier. Handing those keys over and saying, take this vehicle and go down the road at a high rate of speed. Try not to hurt anybody, but for God's sake, bring some ice cream back. And this is what Jesus did. Jesus said, look, I'm going to give this to you. I'm going to give you the keys, and I want you to drive. I want you to take this. I'm giving you the keys to the kingdom. So let me tell you what the future church is. We're giving you the keys. It's not about sacred men in sacred places with sacred texts. Let's don't be scared or insecure followers anymore. You have as much of God's Spirit in you as I do, and you have the same commission that I do and any other pastor we have on our staff or that you will ever meet, no matter what they tell you. This is your mission as much as it's my mission. It has nothing to do with the fact that I'm a pastor. It has everything to do that I'm a Jesus follower just like you. And I'll tell you, for the first few years of this church, I held those keys pretty tightly. Too tight. There's been other times I've held onto those keys and I carried all the church keys. And let me tell you, that's too heavy and it's ridiculous for one person to carry those. And as we hired staff, I handed out keys and different keys and different keys. And all of a sudden what we've discovered is that you should have the keys. You've been given the keys to the kingdom, just like I have. And so we can't and we won't do this as scared, insecure people any longer. It's time for you to drive. It's why we're here. It's why the future looks like it is. And yes, we have to have some help. And of course you have to have leadership. You have to have leadership in everything. But the fact is, we got to do this together. It's why we're sitting here right now, is because we want to do this together. And so we have a path to take, and I've explained this path, but I'd like to explain it again. And it's super simple. You've seen it. So our path looks like this. It's kind of as a stool, although I'm sitting on a 4-leg stool. It's kind of like a 3-leg stool. And our path looks a little bit like this. The first part of this path is in person. We just did that a little bit ago, right? You did that right there in Liberty Hill, too. You had in person, right? We got together. And you know what's cool is, I'm an in-person guy, and you know why? It's because it's kind of all I've ever done. I'm pretty good at it. There's other people better, but come on, we're pretty good at it, aren't we? We're pretty good at in person. I think we ought to celebrate that. We've done that pretty well. Well, that's one of the legs to the stool. But come on, coming up on 2 years ago, the world changed. It just changed. And it ain't going back in so many ways. And one of those is, and I'll just tell you, I don't like this because I'm kind of that in-person guy, and this is what's taken me months to kind of really work through. God, what are you doing? But I'll just tell you, in case you didn't already know, and you already knew, I'm probably the one that's the last to come to the table with this, is that, did you know that on a Sunday, you can open up your phone and you can get a message anywhere? Probably a better one than I can do. If you didn't know that, there you go. You've learned something. You can get online and you can kind of get a message, a Bible, great message with a great speaker. You can kind of get it anywhere. That's changed. Before, it was kind of like you need to come here for this. Well, the truth is that's not really completely true if we're going to be honest. In fact, sometimes I wonder, why do people come here? I mean, come and drink some bad coffee and hang out a little bit and get a message you could have gotten online. I mean, like, seriously, those are some of the things. Why do people do this? And then I go back to the word proximity. It makes a difference. So I've been kind of an in-person guy, but then there's this virtual side of things that has happened, and it's never going back. And for us, it's kind of that second leg of the stool. And in my heart, I've had to just embrace that in a brand new way, and I love what God's been doing inside of us about this. And so look, for those of you online right now and you're watching this right now, I am so excited about the fact that God has done something in the church world through this that maybe we just couldn't see before. And all of a sudden, this window of proximity is now open. And those of you out there right now, I mean, that's where you are. And you're our family. And you're our church. And here's what I believe, is I believe there is a community out there, a community of people who will engage that way long before or even if they never engage this way. And we have to be in proximity. We're going to take some steps towards that. And I'll tell you about that in a few minutes. And then there's this third leg to the stool that we're calling community spaces. Now that may seem fuzzy to you, and if it seems a little fuzzy to you, welcome to my world. It seems fuzzy to me, but here's what I do know, is that it is time for us to do, and this may be a little bold to say, and I'll have to explain it, but it's kind of time for us to do this multi-million-dollar giveaway to our community. By literally creating community spaces out of these facilities that God has blessed us with. And allowing us to not only do things here, but also putting us out there into the community, into those spaces. And so there's a lot for us to learn about that. In a few ways, in the mission way, we've been pretty good at that. But there's a lot more to that we've got to discover and work on. And these areas, in-person, virtual, and community spaces, is why we ask you to be here. Why we ask you to join us. Why we ask you to text the word future to that number. Is because we want to invite you in to that conversation with us. We want you to take the keys and help lead forward in these things. So, we've had to take some steps already, and I'm super excited about these steps. And so the way the rest of our time here together, and I'm going to be very, very conscious of your time today. You've already given us so much. But the way the rest of today is going to go down is this is why we're doing this. This is where we're coming from. This is where we believe we should go. And so I want to introduce to you what we've done so far. So you see, this is the future for us. Go back one more for me. We know that. Go back one. There you go. In-person, virtual, and community spaces. That's what it looks like. We want you to know those words. We want you to begin to think like that. It's real easy to think in person. I'm telling you, it's a little harder to think virtual. And then it gets a really kind of even out here for us in-person kind of church people to think out here in community spaces. But I'm inviting you to begin to open your mind to those. And maybe for you, one of those kind of just grabs your heart and you're like, man, this is like my world. I hope that's the case for you. So we've taken some steps, and we need leadership around all of these. And so I want to tell you a little bit about our leaders. So y'all bring that other slide back up, all right? There you go. So in person, we have what we call campus pastors, all right? So Mario, you're out there in Liberty Hill, and Mario, man, he's been our campus pastor since the opening of that. He's done a great job out there. And in fact, just right here, can we just say, Mario, we absolutely love you. Liberty Hill, would you help me? Let's just tell him, right? Man, Mario's the best guy ever. I just love that guy. He's been in my life for a long, long time. And man, Mario, you've done a great job. And just celebrate you today. Thank you. Thank you. I know you put so much heart into this. And so I love Mario. Man, you might have to remind me of this, John, but maybe a year or so ago, we decided to be working more toward the campus pastor here for Leander. We had initially been thinking Lago, and we still are. There's all kinds of things in the works there, which is just totally crazy going on, and want to share some more of that with you at another time. But like our heart's still towards gathering in Lago as well. And we're like, we need to ramp up for that, and so let's start putting different people into campus training for different things, because we don't know what God's going to do there. And so about a year or so ago, I asked John Evans to step in to do campus pastoring here at the Leander campus. And what that means is that he does what Mario does in Liberty Hill, he does it here in Leander. And he's working on gaining that experience, and like we can put different people into different places and give them experience right here, kind of in the nest, if we would call it that way. And so, man, I'll tell you what, if you don't know John, get to know John. John, I know you're probably in the room somewhere. He's over here. And I say that for those of you in this room. I know y'all can't see, but get to know John if you can. Shoot him an email. Get to know him. Have his family over for dinner. I mean, they're awesome. They're such great, great people. Him and Allie would just love those guys. Mario and Jamie out there, man, these campus pastors, they just do so much. And so Liberty Hill online, and then of course right here in the room, would you help me just let John know, man, we appreciate you. And look, in case you don't know, you got some rock star pastors at these campus pastors, man. If you don't know that, let me tell you, I run in the church world. There's some rock stars here, man. These guys are just amazing, and their families behind them, man, what good people. We're so, so blessed. So that takes us another step, because now all of a sudden we have to have somebody's eye on the virtual. So about, 3 years ago, I think it's been about 3 years ago, I met Matt Ritter. And I met Matt through a common friend, and we met for coffee, and life was interesting for him. And, I just said, let's just be buddies for a while. And how's it going? What's going on with you? And there was just stuff, he's like me, he's like you, there's just stuff. And so we celebrated things, and he was pastor, get this, he's a pastor in Lago. It's like, well, that's interesting. And so we became friends. We'd meet for coffee and catch up once in a while, just try to encourage each other. And not long ago, kind of watching what they did out there and what he was having to do in the virtual world as well, and how that had changed for him. One night, I'm like, man, there's something here. There's something here. So I just spent some time behind the scenes. I spent some time praying. I spent some time going, God, is that going to work? Is that going to work? And then lo and behold, I had a conversation with Matt and found out that he was going to be ending his time as the pastor in Lago. And man, it just kind of fell together in my heart. And so honestly, today is Matt's first Sunday with us. He's come on our staff starting today. And so, Matt, where are you? I don't know. Oh, you coming from here? So, Matt, this is Matt Ritter. Welcome, all right? Sure, come on over here. So this is Matt.
Hi.
Leave my pastor beer alone.
Oh, not a problem. Only if it's got lime in it, right?
Can I drink pastor beer in front of y'all? Okay. So this is Matt, and Matt has today, he's starting on our staff, and Matt's whole focus, in fact, during both services today, we were catching up backstage and saying, okay, think about this. You got to shift from around that in-person kind of guy around to this virtual idea, and I think having a pastor's heart with a foot, and I'm going to say it that way, a foot in production is going to be the right fit for our church to go into the virtual world. We've got some great technical people, We need that pastor's heart who has a foot, I may even say a leg, a whole leg in the production world. And I'm just telling you, for some reason, God orchestrated something, and I'm not just playing with that. I think God orchestrated this, and here we are. If I'm wrong about that, I'll come back later and tell you I was wrong. And if you think is wrong, you can come back and tell me. But we have to have someone's eye on the virtual. That's all there is to it. So Matt, so glad you're here. So glad you're here. We're going to talk a little more here in a minute. And then, man, community spaces. So I looked at our staff and I just said, okay, look, who is on our staff that just already has that heartbeat? Who could we reorganize with that just totally gets it, has our heart, has a pastor's heart, but is just this outward focused person? So a couple of months ago, you guys got to meet Dan last week, which Dan the man. I love Dan, right? Give it up for Dan, right? Dan and Amy, oh my gosh, I'm so glad Dan and Amy are here, man. Dan's just a joy to be around, and man, he's a good preacher too. That was just really awesome last week. Just love that, and God just has blessed us, man. I'm telling you, some rock stars on this staff. It's like y'all don't even need me, right? I mean, it's like you guys are awesome, and so Dan, I'm so glad Dan and Amy and the kids are here. It's just so cool. And so Dan came on our staff as a Next Steps pastor, and if you've been engaging in small groups or leadership in those, you've been hearing from Dan, and that's kind of his world, and he's taking over so much of that spiritual formation, and here's the reason why, is because the person on our staff that this made the most sense to go with is Adina Ramsey. And so let's, Adina, come on out. Hey, you can sit wherever you want to sit. Just, yeah, come on over. So, come on, Adina, I forget how long you've been on staff with us. I should know that, but I forget. Do you know? A long time. Let's just say that, a long time. And, man, I love Adina's heart, man. She's been one of our pastors for a long time, started in children's ministries, done a little bit of everything. And, again, you talk about a rock star, man. Adina's just awesome. Her family, Darren, the kids. And now how weird is this, that her daughter, that was 7? 7 when this church started. They came soon after the church started, and their daughter Taylor, she's our children's pastor in Liberty Hill now. What? I don't know how these things happen, but I'm so glad they do, right?
Me too.
So glad they do. So, yeah, it just made sense. Adina, it's like, oh my goodness, this is what Adina has, her like heartbeats for this stuff. And so, okay, I get all worked up. So anyway, it's just awesome. I love what God's doing with this. And so this is where we are. And so we got to have leadership. So what I want you to know is that that's the leadership. John and Mario on in-person, they're going to have their eye on the in-person stuff. Matt on virtual, he's going to consistently have his eye on the virtual. He's going to become the host on the virtual with other people. He's going to help lead other people into that. We're going to ask some questions about that in a minute. We can talk more about that. And then Adina, I'm like, how do we do this? And I don't know, but I know we got to have some leadership to go where we don't know how to go yet. And so I really believe this is where God has led us, and so I want to put people in place to help us go there. Now, everything needs a leader, but we're handing you the keys. So I want to transition to what we're doing because what I want to do is I want to open this up for some questions to you. And let me tell you why we're going to do this. So if you got questions, here's a number on our screen, on your screen out there. I'm sure we have that on digitally for those of you in online as well. So look, there's a number. And let me tell you why we're not just standing up and shouting out questions is because we don't have a church that exists in one place. Right? That's just not right for us to do. Like, let's all operate together. And so that means those of you online, your opportunity is just as great as those who are in person. Those of you in Liberty Hill, your opportunity is just as great as those online, and yours here equally as well. Let's operate that way. And so that's why we're doing that rather than carrying a microphone around to all of us, all right? It also gives us an opportunity to do that. So what I want to ask you to do is you go like, what has been your question? What would you like to hear us answer? And we're already going to tell you, we may not know, right? We may not know, and we won't make anything up on the spot, all right? But what I'm telling you is that if you have a question like, I don't understand what community spaces are, or how would we do that, or is this a community space, or and then virtually what's that going to look like? What are we going to do with that? And we can talk for a minute about some of those things. But I want to give you a chance to go, here's been my question. And look, your questions are okay. Now, if you're just asking me why I always wear a black shirt, not going to answer that, right? That's fine. I'm not going to answer that. But if you want to ask questions about where we're going, the future of our church, I want you to ask them. And so right now, just text in whatever that is. We have people ready to feed us those questions, get them to us, and let us answer those. So while we're waiting on you, and you feel free to ask anything around these things that you want to, and we're here to listen, and we're here to help answer those questions and maybe clear up something in your mind as well, no matter where you're at. So let's do that. In fact, when you text in your question, would you tell us where you are if you're in Liberty Hill or if you're online? You can just do an LH, or you can just do an O or whatever so we know you're online. Or if you're here in Leander, you just put an LEA or spell out Leander or whatever you want to do. Just tell us where you're at, because it would help us maybe to address in these particular areas as well. So whatever your questions are, we want to do that. So while we're waiting on a few of those to come in, let's talk a little bit about, let's go to virtual first, all right? So Matt, I told Matt before, I was like, look, Matt, I don't expect you to know any more than me, which is not a whole lot, but we're dreaming a little bit. So, Adina, feel free to enjoy or join into the conversation as well. And so let's talk a little bit, Matt, about what do you, do you have any thought? We're not going to hold you, we're not going to hold each other to stuff today. We're dreaming, right? So we're going to dream a little bit in front of you maybe. What are some of the thoughts about the virtual side of church that you've had either in your experience over the last 2 years, because you've had the same thing we've had. What are some of your thoughts about that so far?
Well, I think I kind of felt what you were saying earlier, how, you've been in church a long time, and I grew up pretty much, 44 now, and I've been in church my whole life. And I remember any time that we didn't make it on a Sunday, we had it on TV, right? We had our televangelists. Mm-hmm. We had whoever that, Jimmy Swaggart. Woo! Think way back then. I'm dating myself totally.
The piano, Johnny.
Right. Kenneth Copeland way back then. Anyways, so now it's gotten to the point where, so many of us last year had to jump into it because of, when COVID hit. We've always been trying to do the online thing for a long time. I think many of us churches have to provide that experience. But last year, we really wanted to make it even more interactive and more in your face, because it's all people had in some places. And so I think that's why, why we jumped into it so deep in that moment. And I think, for me, it was just a learning experience along the way. It was, what can we provide here in this online realm where people can actually feel like they're really in the building themselves? What can we do to make them feel like they're home? And so that's basically been, my heart behind thinking about virtual ministry, what that even looks like. I think, both of us, you gave me that phrase, and I'm thinking, we're going to be saying, I don't know a lot, right? We're going to be, when we talk about what's this going to look like, what platforms it's going to be on, how's it going to affect people, how interactive is it going to be? I think we're going to have the I don't know moments quite a few times here and there, but I think that's the joy of us just learning this process together and knowing how can we make people feel like they are sitting right here on a Sunday morning, in their hot tubs, like you said this morning.
It's happened. That's why I say that.
That would be great. Yeah, I'd like a hot tub.
I was going to say, one of the things I'm super excited for over the last few weeks, I have had 2 different encounters with people that just watch church online. I ran into somebody at a party, and they said, do you go to RockPointe? And I said, yeah. And she goes, well, I just watch online. And I was like, no, you don't just watch. Yeah. You're a part of something, And the same thing happened yesterday. And so I'm excited that Matt's coming on for people to be able to take that just out of there and really feel like they are part of something.
Yeah, let's answer a couple questions. What are we going to do to bring a sense of community to the online campus? Pastor Matt?
Come on, Matt. Bring it.
Hey, you don't have to have the answer. We can discuss a little bit of that. So,
I'm going to get the I don't know out of the way first. Because, again, we will say that here a couple of times. To bring a sense of community, again, I think it's just making it more more than just Sunday as well. You know, we want to provide something that's happening throughout the week. So again, people feel like they can do a small group. That there can be options for youth. There can be options for children. So many ways to keep connected throughout the week in so many different ways. Now, you know, a lot of us experienced the boom of Zoom last year, you know, where the Zoom conferencing, you know, computer conferencing kind of started happening and jumping in. And it was a real cool way to just really be all in one room, in one place with all your friends, all your coworkers, and experience that moment. But, you know, again, the heart behind it here is that how do we take that and just make that more intentional, more interactive for people to take home more of that sense of church back home as well. So I think, again, as we do mention, you know, we still are looking at the vision of what that's going to look like, what a sense of community, online community is going to look like, even further than it already is right now as a church, what that's going to look like. Who knows? And I don't know, you know, what that, to what extent that might actually look like. But for us, it's just exciting to think about how people can build relationships, how they can kind of, again, as I said a moment ago, in that sense, have that small group feel where they are just, they're more interactive and they're more connected than they ever have been on a virtual side.
Yeah, that's awesome. So the other part of this that I want to make sure that we bring into this, because this has become a realization for us, is that kids. Mm-hmm. So the truth is we've watched, and man, we tried so hard over the whole life of the pandemic to include kids, and man, just everything we knew how to do, creating content for kids, and here this is, and all that stuff. So look, again, don't hold us to this because we're dreaming a little bit, but I just asking the question, why can't your kids have a class on Sunday morning virtually? Aren't our schools already haven't they done that? Haven't they figured out how to do that? Doesn't that already exist where we could gather, 5, 7-year-olds from around our community or wherever with a teacher that leads them through and talks to them and has a relationship in that small group setting for kids? I mean, why can't we do that? And so again, I'm not saying we're jumping in today. I'm saying we're dreaming, and I'm just asking the why questions. Why are we missing kids in this? What about students? Where does that happen? Because we have a tendency to just say, well, as long as the adults do everything. It's like, well, wait a minute. What about the least and the littlest among us, right? So if we're going to have a virtual campus, we got to have a virtual campus. Now, I don't know how you drink a virtual cup of coffee, but maybe we can figure it out. But you see, my point is that we've got to bring that engagement to all. It can't just be for one piece of our church. Because I don't know about you, but I remember when my kids were little. It's not like this anymore, thank goodness. But when my little kids were little, you can't really watch anything. Right? You can't really engage anything. You're doing this. And so how do we do that? And maybe that doesn't happen at the same time, or maybe it does. I don't know. I'm just saying it's got to be a campus. We've got to dream virtual about everybody in that realm. Let's move on. Okay, so here you go, Adina. What would a community space look like? That's a big question.
That is a big question. I think it's very simple. Community space is us using these buildings for people in the community. And I think that can look like a number of different things. I think for me, I want it to be a balance of things that we host for the community and then things that the community just gets to use our building as it's a gift. That's
Sorry,
good.
I was texting.
No, you're good. You're good.
I feel like
I feel like I should ask you the next question, though.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Here we go.
So, yeah. You can ask me, but I may say I don't know.
Okay, the next question is, Shayne, what is your role in the future church's model? There you go.
I don't know.
More vacations?
Yeah, I honestly don't know. You know what? So look, I'll just be gut level honest with you guys. I can't do this forever. Mm-hmm. I mean, I can't do this forever. I've been doing it for 31 years in the full-time capacity, and that's great. I mean, I don't want to do anything else. I'm not looking to get out. I mean, I have recently, but then God slapped me around, and here I am.
Get back.
I don't know, but what I do know is I can't do this forever. I'm not even supposed to do this forever, and I know that giving the keys away and you driving is the absolute right thing for me to be doing, thinking about the future of our church. So I want you to know some of that is this for me, is how do I give keys away? right? So I want to spend whatever time God allows me to have, and I hope it's a long time. But whatever amount of time God allows me to do what I'm doing, I want to spend giving keys away. And I want to diversify our leadership to a place where the church is strong and healthy. And, I'll just tell you that founding pastors, which is what I am, are typically very entrepreneurial, which I am. And I did a study a couple of years ago about founding pastors that whenever they retire or they move on and go do their next phase of life or whatever that is, it doesn't usually go well for the church. And I don't want that to happen. So I know ahead of time that's the case. And so this is part of me going, I love you enough not to leave you in a bad spot. And so what my role looks like, as far as I know right now, is spending as much time as I can learning how to give the keys away so that when it becomes very common for me to just be a part of the equation, not the equation. If that makes sense.
Yes.
Because I love you too much to do something different than that. Don't ask me any more questions.
Okay.
All right.
Would you like?
All right. This I know. I'm going to cry in a minute. How are we going to stay connected as one church as we add more opportunities? When we say opportunities, somebody clarify opportunities. Are we talking about places where we're meeting? I'm not sure what they mean, but what do you? Maybe you come back to that one. Tell us what you mean by opportunities. You can text me or whatever. What would a virtual small group look like? Well, we've experienced that a little bit, but you want to speak to that?
Oh no, I was thinking about that as I saw that on the screen. I laughed at the possibility of this, but if you all keep up with the news a lot, you know that Facebook, we've all loved that for so long. It's been changed to Meta now. We're now jumping into this Meta universe. And I thought, we're having this interesting conversation of what that could actually look like down the line, where maybe we are putting on these funny helmets and looking at each other, in this virtual world and talking like that. And that's kind of a joke more at the moment, but who knows as technology in the future as technology especially evolves, what that might look like. But again, having the opportunity for us just to have a deeper connection online rather than just through something like Zoom, again, which is great, or FaceTime, things like that, but really pouring into each other's lives throughout the entire week and what that even looks like, for sure.
Yeah, let me tell you something crazy. So I'm not like a gamer. That's just not my thing. But I have an Oculus, right? I have the Oculus, and I play Top Golf in the Oculus, and because I don't have to go anywhere. The food's, sometimes is good, but, anyway. Sorry. If you don't go to Top Golf, you have no idea. Sorry. Anyway, I play Top Golf in Oculus, right? And I've got this little golf club, and I can swing, and it's just the best thing ever inside there. And I can play in the living room. I can play in my bedroom. And then I realized that one of my friends also had an Oculus, and that he can get in there. And so we play Top Golf together, and he lives in West Texas. And we play it together, and we can see each other, and we can hear each other, and we can play games against each other, and it's the most amazing thing ever, and it's so fun. I think we should have small groups like that.
Yeah.
Woo! Go get yourself an Oculus, and there's boxing games. Wouldn't you like to box your small group once in a while? So it's like, let's, woo!
Don't tell my wife that. Holy cow. I think we're living in this world now where we're actually at that place where 5-10 years ago we were going, how cool would it be if we could do this? And now we're actually in that moment, and I think it's kind of neat to see how technology is providing that opportunity that may be, we will be boxing our closest friends. Who knows?
I love it. What would community? I think we skipped a few, but this is what they're feeding us. So what will community spaces look like week to week?
Well, I think that is a question that can't really be answered because we don't really know yet, but I anticipate that every week would look very different. We may have some things that are commonplace, this day we do this or this day we do this. But really, like I said earlier, I want the buildings to be a gift to people, and it's what does our community need? They may need something different every week. We've kind of gone from making it more usable to like Girl Scout troops and some of those like smaller things, and then bigger things for things that the cities need and the school districts. And so I think it could look different every single week.
Should we say a couple of things we've thought, or is that too far out there?
Well, I don't know.
Will you not hold us to it?
Don't hold us to it.
Oh, they sound like they're going to hold us to it.
Yeah, I'm like.
Okay, well then never mind.
Yes.
I think you're just freaking them out right now.
Yes, well, yeah. Yeah.
No?
No, I mean.
I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say it because I can hear the people online already saying say it. Okay, so look, come on, like we're dreaming, okay? Don't run off the deep end and go, well, we're doing this. We're dreaming, right? And so we're asking you to dream. So let me tell you how some of the dreams for us have been is like, what if this was a place somebody stopped every day because there was value to them to stop here every day? Right? So like, what does that look like? Like, what if you stopped by here in the morning, and this is where you got your coffee in the morning? Okay, easy.
Good coffee.
We're doing. Yeah.
Good
For
coffee.
those of you online in Liberty Hill, somebody just went, yes.
Good coffee.
Right? That's what that was. Like, look. Well, first of all, we got to get way better coffee.
Yes.
Sorry, there's a whole lot behind that. So, like, I know for me, so like during like times whenever like we weren't in the office and all this stuff, and how many people are working from home now? Oh my gosh, it's like everybody's working from home. And sometimes you just need to get out and go somewhere. You know, you need a workspace besides your living room or your guest bedroom or whatever. And like, you know, what if this became common? What if this was a common place in our community where it was of value to people in the community? You know, what if people knew there was actually a playground back there and they could come and get their coffee as a group of moms together and just hang out? And I'm not saying they come and then we tell them about Jesus while they're there. I'm saying, what if we gave this as a gift to our community and they came and they actually could hang out here and that was okay?
Yeah. What if we just said hi?
Yeah.
And that was it?
Yeah, I don't know. That may be too much. So I don't know. I mean, so like that's just one little facet of that. I mean, like my brain goes crazy with this stuff, right? It just runs and runs and runs. So like just to give you kind of a little idea of like how are we going to open this up? And I don't know if that's the right idea. I'm just saying it is an idea.
We have a lot of ideas.
And so, like, I don't know. You know the reason why I wanted to tell you the idea is because I want to trigger your brain to think ideas, right? I want to encourage you. I want to try to inspire you to go, well, what about this? And what about that? And what about that? Yes, ask the questions, right? Because that's where we land together on, like, look, if you're counting on me to dream all the ideas, we are already messed up in this, right? So, like, this is an us thing. It's got to be an us thing. Let's move on. We've just got a few minutes left.
Can I add to that?
Yeah.
No. What you're saying, I think that even in our online community as well, your participation and your ideas and thoughts are going to be just as helpful as some of ours as well. We're going to need to know from the online community what works and what doesn't work, and what would be great, what would be cool if this was provided as well. So that same idea for us. I love it.
Yeah. So you guys out there. He's talking to you, right?
Well, and I know for community spaces, that was one thing we were really careful on, not like really moving ahead. I'm like, let's go, but wanting to take the time and bring in teams of people and use other people's ideas. It's really important.
Okay, a lot of community spaces stuff here. So let me just rattle off a few of these and we'll have a quick conversation about it, all right? This says, how much, if all, do we plan to connect with nonprofits for community spaces? Here's another one. Can I serve in community spaces?
Yes, you can.
That was quick.
Same.
Already getting people for the team. How about this one? What about community spaces online? Is there a way to help them be involved? That's an interesting thought. What kind of community spaces are we looking to build in? You understand that? I don't either. So we're going to skip that one, unless you guys want to qualify it for us. And it's fine if you qualify it. So how about those? What about nonprofits?
Oh, I like it. Comment from Liberty Hill.
Here's a comment from Liberty Hill.
Yeah, I mean, you got to say that.
Put me in, Coach. I'm
ready to go. That's what I'm talking about.
Way to go, Liberty Hill. Love you guys, right? You guys are honestly, look, they're a step ahead of us. Here in Leander. Liberty Hill's a step ahead of us because they're already in this world, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So go put our questions back
to
up there.
community spaces.
Right? So community spaces, like, let's just take that online part. How do you two work together to, that's an interesting thought.
But we'll work something out.
Is that an I don't know?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Y'all
we'll figure it out, though.
Put those questions back up for us.
Yes, of course we'll do something for community spaces online. 100%. Why wouldn't we? It just goes with who we're going.
Okay,
we are.
so how about this? Community spaces, would you consider opening up the big spaces in Leander and Liberty Hill for things like concerts and plays?
Yes.
Done.
I mean,
Next
yeah,
question.
yeah, next. I mean, I know that we have a lot of questions about community spaces, and there really is no like right or wrong answer. Like our filter is very big in the beginning is, does it serve our community? And is it something that we can offer and offer it well?
Yeah.
And so I'm looking forward to doing a lot of different things, and I love the idea of kind of like trial and error and maybe doing things and being like, it didn't work, so let's try something else, But I'm really excited for the church to be something for the community that they don't see as a church.
Yeah.
I know.
Man, we can wrestle with that
I
one.
know,
But,
I know, but it's
that's probably that church side of me coming out.
Yeah,
But, like,
I know.
It's the other part of that for me too, is just to go more for me. Like if I was going to say that, Adina, I would say that more for me is that something they would never expect a church to be doing.
When I said non-threatening, they expect so much. Like, when you're a church, they have all these different expectations.
Yeah, and that's our fault. That's our fault as a church for setting that up that way. So, okay, as we add more to leadership and reach further out into the community, what is the strategy to keep connected as a single church? That's a great question. So, first of all, you sitting here is the beginning of this, right? Being able to go like, this is your church. We want to hand you the keys. We need you because you're us. It can't be us and them. It's got to be us. And so we've got to be able to take this and engage in this together. That's why, that's why we say all the time, is like people who are online and you experience church online, you're our family, right? You're our church in your home. You're our church family in your home. Here in Leander, you're our church family here in Leander. Liberty Hill, you're our church family. We are one church. We're not a divided church. Man, did we not just talk about that today? We can't be divided, even though you go, well, like, hey, our expression is a little bit different out here online. Our expression is a little bit different in Liberty Hill. It's one church. It's one church. And so the mindset is, first of all, you're here, you're experiencing this. We want the invitation for you to be a part of this, and we want you to drive. That's how we stay connected, is that we're all on one mission. 3 expressions of our church: in person, online, virtually, and then in community spaces. 3 expressions where we share the message of Jesus and we get in proximity of people. Right now, we're kind of on this one, and I don't know how to do a half finger there, but we're kind of like right there, right? Like we're kind of halfway virtual right now, right? So like the community spaces things is just so new. So like I would say we're like 50% doing the thought of this. We have to go further than that. All right, look, we didn't get to all the questions. All right, so we'll try to help with that. So I want to leave us because I got to wrap up and honor your time, and we've got 2 minutes left in order to end on time. So how do we better serve our world? I'd like to know what you think. I'd like you to help shape the future of this church. And we have some incredible minds. If I was starting a church today, all over again, and I had this, we would tear up this place. I mean, that's not the way it was in the beginning. It just wasn't. But if we had the minds and the dedication and the talent, the abilities of a group like this and these, and like, man, that just kind of excites me. And then I stop and think, we do. This is what God's gifted us with, is each other. Help shape the future of the church. So how do we better serve our world? I've got some questions for you, and here's what we're going to do. We're actually going to, when this meeting is over, we're going to send another text, right? So if you get another one from us, if you're tired of our text, you can say stop and hand back the keys if you want to. But we would like you to hang on to the keys for a little while. and we're going to text, and we're going to text you a link, and that link's going to take you to a form with these questions on it, and then a space to add some additional comments. And we really want to know what you're thinking. What got triggered in your mind today? So let me give you a couple of examples. So like they're divided, the questionnaire, the survey, whatever, your comments are divided into those three areas of in-person, virtual, community spaces. So like, just a question like, what first brought you to an in-person service at RockPointe? Like we'd like to know a little bit more of that, because look, we want to get better at in-person too. That's not the side step there for us. We want to continue to grow and be better at that. But it's not the only win for us anymore. Does that make sense? The win, listen, online, the win for us is not trying to get you to come here or Liberty Hill. That's not the win. The win is you engaging right where you are. Liberty Hill, the goal is not to change that and try to like make that into, you to engage right where you are. That's the win. We want to get better at these environments. And so, another question maybe out of the virtual realm is this. What's the number one way you and your friends engage online these days? Like, how are you engaging online? We want to learn that. We want to know better about how to do that better. That'll help us a whole lot in our next phase of this with you. And we can bring some of these answers back to you in January when we meet again like this and talk some more. And then the community spaces, I just love this question. And I'm going to say it up front and I'm going to say it at the end. Think big. Think big. Dream big. And the question, this is just one of the questions, but how do you think the church could best, get this, serve our community and our area? How do you think we could best serve? And I'm going to say it again. Think big. Like you go, well, I got an idea, but we probably, okay, stop. Write it down. Who knows what God might do through you? And you know what I love is when God gives you an idea, he's probably expecting you to be a part of it. So I'm already telling you that up front. Right? Now nobody's going to write their ideas down, are they? They're like, oh, he's going to ask me to do it. Yep. Because we're giving you the keys. So look, we got to wrap up. I hope this is a little bit helpful. What we wanted you to know today, our main goal today was, first of all, let's get in the rooms together. Let's get into the chat together. Let's be there. Let's gather. Because here's what I want you to know. The 21st Century Church series was not just a series. If we had ended and said, wasn't that nice, we should all love each other? Well, it would have been a series. But it was not just a fall series. It was the beginning of the future of the church for us. And we wanted to gather today to let you know we're taking steps forward. We're incredibly serious about what God has given us direction on, and we're going there. And please, please, please get in the driver's seat and drive forward with us. Because this is an us thing, not a Shayne thing, not a staff thing. It's an us thing. Look, I told you we have some rock stars on our staff, and man, I believe that so much. Oh my gosh, I love these guys. I would put them up against anybody, anywhere, and we'd win. We would win. We're street smart. We're street smart. We may not be the most polished people in the world, but man, we will cut you if we have to, right? Yeah. See what you got yourself into. Oh my goodness. But here's what else I believe, is that take away buildings, take away our ability to meet, take away our lights, give us you, we'll change the world. Change the world. Because none of this is what it's about. It's you, and quite honestly, it's them out there. So let's go change the world. And let's do it together. Hey, John, will you come up here? I'm going to have you pray here. In fact, I'll just have you pray for everybody. I'm not sure how to do that, but Mario is going to have you pray out there, but it's all good. You do your thing. And again, those of you online, thanks so much for being in this with us, right? If you want to go back and rewatch this, it's out there and can do that. Watch for that text that's going to be coming through. And then Liberty Hill, just thanks for being our family and for having your eye on Liberty Hill and how to reach that community. What I've learned over the last 5 years is that Leander and Liberty Hill are different communities, and there's such great things in both. And so want to point that out too, is that there are going to be some ideas surface around Liberty Hill and Leander, and as we look forward to Lago, around those very integral things that are going on in those cities that might work there in a completely different way. And so Liberty Hill, man, let your dream big online, dream big, and let's do this. John, take
let's
us out.
pray. All right, God, thank you so much for the opportunity right here, right now, to get to do this through everything all of us and in our church has been through, to look forward with just full of hope and excitement and, man, just energy, thinking about, God, that we're following after you. We are following where you're leading. We're following where you're providing. And God, we just really make ourselves available to say, hey, what do you want us to do? And I'm so grateful for the direction that we have through this, knowing that this is the hill that we're charging. And so, God, we ask for wisdom along the way for each one of us, just to know our part, but really to recognize the opportunities that you put around us, to step forward into that with boldness, knowing that we're going where you're leading us. So just in person, Lord, help us continue to see those the way that you see others, Lord, just with hearts to just welcome those into our church. We just ask that you just make it clear virtually, and just new ways, peculiar ways to reach those that you're calling us to reach and to build community with virtually. And also through community spaces, God, we just are so grateful for the resources that we have with these facilities, that we are making these available for more people to connect, for more people to ultimately and hopefully find you. And so, Lord, we are so grateful for your Spirit. We are so thankful for Jesus, and Jesus, what you do in our lives. And so we just commit to you, and we follow you where you're leading us, and we're grateful for this church. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, church family.
When the snow falls outside, you can hold me tight. When it's cold through the night, we'll stay warm inside. We'll feel the fire burning, baby. Spin that record one more time, 'cause we're gonna spend our night dancing in Christmas style. Pack your bags, pack your